Hi, Douglas Simonson here, coming to you from Mexico with a painting demonstration. Today, I'm going to be doing an entire painting using just 5 colors. Fabian is the subject of today's painting. I met Fabian in the gymnastics gym where I work out. He modeled for me in my apartment in Puerto Vallarta in 2021. It was a great photo shoot. He's a great model, and I've already done a lot of drawings and paintings of him, and now I'm going to do another one. This is the photograph I'm going to be working from today, and this is the same image after I tweaked it in Photoshop. If you want to know more about the Photoshop tweak that I use and how it makes photos easier to paint from, check out my video on this channel called Using Photoshop to Make Photos Easier to Paint From. Before I start painting, I need to sketch everything out in pencil. You don't always have to do this, but it makes things a lot easier and it's safer. It's more likely it's going to work out. I'm using an 11 by 14 sheet of Fabriano watercolor paper. It's a nice heavy paper that works well with acrylics. When the drawing is done, I start mixing my colors. Today's painting demonstration is a little different and special because I'm painting with a limited palette. What that means is I'm using just 5 colors, and I'm going to mix every color in the painting using just those 5 colors and white. So I made a list of the colors I'm going to use today. Okay, where is it? Okay, there it is. These are the colors I'm going to be painting with today. Number 1, ultramarine blue. 2, cadmium red medium. 3, cadmium yellow medium. 4, burnt umber. And 5, quinacridone magenta. And, of course, titanium white. So I'm going to be mixing every color I need in the painting today using just these 5 colors and white. Okay, ready to go. I'm going to mix a purplish pink for the background, so I'm using the magenta. And then I want to tone it down, so I add some blue and some yellow, since green is the complement of red. Oops, almost forgot. I want to put masking tape down along the edges of the paper, so I have a nice clean edge. Okay, now we're ready to paint. As usual, I start with the darkest darks. I mix a dark reddish purplish brown for the darkest flesh tones, and I use ultramarine and burnt umber to mix up some black. For the not quite so dark flesh tones, I mix both reds and again add some blue and yellow to tone it down. I end up with a nice dark reddish flesh tone. Now I need something cool for the cooler dark flesh tones, and for this I mix a very dull green, almost a khaki. That's easy to mix, just add blue to the yellow to make green, and then add a bit of cadmium red to dull that green and move it more toward khaki. next lighter flesh tone is going to be more toward orange. Again, pretty easy to mix, cadmium yellow and cadmium red, and in this case a bit of burnt umber to tone it down. Now we need another orangey mix for the lighter reflections in the shadows of the body. But I noticed there are also some touches of intense red in there, so I mix up some red too. Now we can add that lighter orange. Now the figure is starting to come to life. Now we're getting to the highlights. When you're mixing these really light colors, you basically start with a big glob of white and add a tiny touch of color. And it'll look super light on the palette, but when you add it to the painting, it's going to look much darker. And by the way, I'm using the background color here, just a very, very light version of it. While I was mixing that light orange tone earlier, I mixed several versions, so now I'm already ready with a really light orange tone, and I start adding that. Now for the yellows in the towel. To mix a shadow yellow, I add the complement, purple, by adding some magenta and some ultramarine to the yellow. I mix several shades from dark to light for the different parts of the towel. For the shadow areas of the white part of the towel, I'm going to use the same lighter version of the background color that I was using for the cool, very high highlights on the body. Now, you notice that little bit of bluish reflected light on the shoulder? I'm mixing some ultramarine and a touch of burnt umber with plenty of white for that. And it takes a bit of experimentation to get it right. It has to be not too light, not too dark. Almost done now. Just need to add the whites. And I'm actually adding a tiny bit of yellow to some of the highlights. I also need to add some light areas to the hair. And for that I'm using mostly burnt umber and white with just a touch of blue. The final touch is that halo of light on Fabian's right shoulder, on our left. And here's the final painting after I peeled off the masking tape. This is called Fabian with Yellow Towel. It's an acrylic sketch on paper, so you'll find it in the rough sketches section of my website. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching me paint, maybe picked up some tips, maybe learned a little bit more about color mixing. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That inspires me to do more videos. And if you got a little inspired watching me paint, great. Put on your painting pants and go paint!